to begin by a little introduction to the whole concept so that I bring you in that space in which we are going to be there for another hour or so, maybe. Maybe less, maybe more. We don't know. Now, we all have gone through some challenges in our life. Each one of us faces it. Some faces internally, some are facing a psychological challenge, mental challenge, emotional, physical. But we all, every single moment, every single day, each one of us is facing a challenge. We may or may not show it. And sometimes these challenges are manageable because we either find a way to accept them, to live with them, to find a way to understand them, and then we move on in life. And then life goes on, and that is what life is all about, good times and bad times. But there come moments in life when some challenges, in reality, they kind of manifest in front of you. Like a, like a storm, they come in your life and completely create a chaos in your life, a manic chaos. And it is at those moments when what you choose makes you the person you are. It helps you understand who you really are. And some people at those times will probably succumb to the challenges and, in fact, just go with the flow in the chaos. And there will be more and more chaos. While sometimes a very few, selected few, will probably take that adversity, that challenge, and make it a second chance in life. And I'm very glad that Dr. Bhaskar has taken that. Now, before again I start with this introduction, I want to introduce myself. My name is Ekta Bajaj, and I wear many hats. I'm an author, so I do know the feeling that he's feeling today, looking at the book in his hand. I'm a speaker too. I'm an artist. But the hat that I really want to wear today, apart from being a spiritual seeker also, is my entrepreneurial hat. And I want to begin by saying that I'm wearing my hat where I've worked with my team, Monica Sood and Sandra Smith, and worked with Dr. Bhaskar for the last 10 months or so, and helped him structure this book. And that is the hat I'll be wearing today, because having seen throughout the hours of interviews with him, his story, I do understand how far he has come. And let's hear it from the man himself. So, Dr. Bhaskar, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ekta. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for gracing the event with your presence. I want to thank you all and my family, all my friends, Sandra, Monica, Ekta, for bringing this dream into fruition. A bit about myself. I'm a doctor by background. It all began in Assam, which is a beautiful state in northeast India, where I was born and brought up, where I did my medical school. And then, after a few trials and tribulations, which you will find in the book, I immigrated to UK in 2004, and since then have kind of gone through all the journeys that you do as a first generation immigrant, and perhaps according to many, I set myself up as a successful person, both as a doctor and as an entrepreneur. But there were some other things written in my fate, and I sustained a spinal cord injury in July 2019, following on from an operation. And then subsequently, I was diagnosed with cancer of the thyroid, for which I had another operation. So my neck has been cut through quite a few times. And yeah, like you'd expect, I had been through the reactions of depression, anger, grief, all sorts of things. But somehow by grace and gratitude, those feelings did not last for too long, and perhaps being a doctor, or perhaps all the time that I had spent in the hospital bed by myself, helped me reflect and accept the new normal that I have to get used to.
Okay, so we'll go back to the beginning now, Dr. Bhaskar. No, you are a doctor, yeah? You have always
Yeah.
been on the other side of fence where people are coming to you for help, for treatment. And let's start from the beginning, because I know when we were hearing your story and that we thought that this was the perfect way to start the story. Um, Tell us about that moment when you realized that you have probably crossed that fence and now you are the patient here. Tell us about that moment when you realized something big has happened.
It's quite painful to recollect that.
I can imagine.
But yeah, it was the operation that I had gone in for a trapped nerve on my left shoulder, which was causing me some pain for a while. And then as I woke up from the surgery, the first thing I realized was lots of pins and needles on my leg, and I couldn't lift them. And I realized it when I wanted to go to the toilet. And yeah, it was the feeling of panic. But I initially thought that this was just the what you expect after surgery or after anesthetic. But when next day it got worse, and subsequent day it got even worse, and it crept up to my waist, and I was telling the surgeon that this is happening, and I was told that nothing to worry. It was perhaps the doctor in me which told me that, this looks like a long game. Things are not going to be normal. That was the moment I realized that I either have to just be a person with disabilities for the rest of my life, or I get used to this normal and kind of survive and thrive through it.
Was your first reaction denial, or did you just think that this is it? What? Because looking at you here today, we don't see that person who probably has gone through this whole lot of journey. So initially, when anyone is faced with the trauma, the first reaction is always denial. How easy was it for you to go from that denial to acceptance?
Um, you're right. I was probably in a bit of denial, but more the feeling that I experienced the most or recognized the most was being scared. I was scared mainly for my family, because my wife and my two daughters are here. Um, Young family. My first worry was if I if I can't walk again, if I can't do my job again, if I can't earn again, how am I gonna cater to my family? Uh, that was my first and foremost insecurity and scare. And then I was in denial for a while, thinking that, yeah, whatever happens, I can still get back to work. And I tried my best to get back to work. I tried my best to get back to work, but I couldn't. There was one day that I went to work in a cab, and then I couldn't. So that was the moment when I kind of realized that, yeah, I now have to accept this, and I have to find some alternative ways of moving forward. Uh, I went through all those feelings that you would expect. I'm not an invincible person. I'm a normal person, so I had all these feelings of being depressed, being worried, being in denial. Also, the questions you would ask: why it has to be me? Why it was me? What did I do to deserve this? But thankfully, it did not take me very long to accept. Perhaps again because over the years of being a doctor, I had counseled several patients how to accept this. That probably helped. And I remember the first time when the clinical psychologist, came to see me in Wellington Hospital, where I was going through the neuro rehabilitation, and she asked me, "Are you depressed?" I said, "No, I'm not." And she said, "But you should be." I said, "Should I be?" uh, but I said, perhaps because I had read about acceptance and commitment therapy, and lots of different counseling techniques and stuff. So I was able to practice them on myself. So that helped, I think.
And you also mentioned about something that really particularly hit the chord, something deep in our heart when we were working, that this was the fear you always had. It is almost
Yes.
like, we say that the fear we have, it, it most obviously it sometimes comes true, but most of us just say that, don't fear this, this will come true. In your case, this actually came true.
It actually did. Yes.
And
I'm
that was the
probably
fear of being in a state like this.
like this. Yes. I'm probably a perfect example for the law of attraction. You know? So, because I never feared death. In fact, right from childhood, I had this kind of thing about curiosity about death, what happens on the other side. So I never feared dying. In fact, because we don't have the technology to know what happens on the other side, so we still can't go there and come back. So we'll have to be content with what we have. But what I was really scared about was being half dead. Being paralyzed, being a vegetable, being a cripple. I've been called a cripple several times. Um, and being dependent on others. That was what I was really scared about, particularly having seen my dad having a stroke and then become disabled for the rest of his life, and surviving 21 years like that. So that was my fear. And as you said, the worst of my fears came true just overnight.
How did that change you as a person? I mean, now that you face the worst,
Yeah.
there is nothing more left to face, and then you are facing cancer, and then you're facing something more. How has this whole journey changed you as a person? Because um, I do realize when we were working, you did mention that it has been therapeutic for you to just look back. But how do you see yourself as Dr. Bhaskar, who was a dynamic doctor, very successful doctor, and Dr. Bhaskar, who we have here today as an author?
It has been a long journey. When I kind of look back at that, I can say is basically I'm now a lot poorer than what I was.
Richer
Uh,
in
but I
experience.
am richer in life experiences, absolutely. In a way, I think I have always believed. I mean, I'm not a very religious person, but I'm one of those silent believers. I've always believed in grace and gratitude, and there's somebody up there who kind of decides what happens. So I've always been a believer. So I thought that there must be a reason behind everything. And when I came to my senses after coming out from the denial, then I thought that perhaps I have got a higher calling. I'm still not 100% sure about what lies in the future, because it still feels like I'm looking at it through some broken spectacles, sort of thing. It's still hazy. But every single day it's becoming a little bit more clearer. So, yes, as a doctor, I was on that side of the fence, and I have seen many patients going through all this journey, or the palliative journey. I've seen many patients dying. Uh, but to go through this myself had been pretty difficult. On the other hand, I think it was perhaps that happened. That's the reason why we are sitting here discussing about my book. And perhaps along with healing myself, I would be able to heal and help other people who are going through similar circumstances. Perhaps there's always someone worse off than you. We think we are at the worst, but there is always someone worse off, and perhaps I can help those people find their voice. Uh, there may be people who are given up a bit too early in their life, and I want to be a voice for them. I want my book and my talks to be a voice for all those people with disabilities, or who have fought things like cancer, to be a voice for the people with disabilities, both seen and unseen, and hopefully I can inspire them. I can touch their heart.
You mentioned, again, coming back to your role as a doctor, you mentioned that there were so many patients and every day you saw deaths and everything. And sometimes, for doctors, at least we feel who are, who are not doctors, that for doctors, it can become a very mechanical job. This has happened, this is going to happen, stuff like that. And then suddenly here is here words like healing, words like observations, self-reflection. Has this process connected you to your soul? Has it made you more spiritual, if I may say so?
Yes, I would. I would agree with that. I think when we talk about spirituality, lots of people think it's a cliche, right? So that's spiritual. You can't be a spiritual and you can't be a millionaire, sort of thing. So, but I think in
All
order,
spiritual people are millionaires.
um, no, it's just that that's a general concept, you know. So if you are spiritual, you give up on all the material things. But I give the analogy like you hear in the aeroplane. You say that if there is any sort of alarm, then you first put on your oxygen mask before you put it on somebody else. So you have to be stable yourself. You need to be able to be sustainable yourself before you talk about spirituality to others. And one of my prime objective is to bring spirituality into daily life.
And
You know.
have you started doing that? What do you mean? How do you do that? Is there any set things that you do?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of myself, yeah, I think just the feeling of now being able to appreciate what I have got, just those small things, you know, the first time I was able to go to the toilet by myself, the first time I was able to make a cup of tea, all those things which we take for granted, you only kind of understand their worth when you have not had them anymore. Yeah. So walking is something we just do it from when we are 1 year old, isn't it? But not being able to walk was when I realized how important walking is. Not being able to walk my dogs, not being able to kick the football, not being able to cycle, all those small things, you know, which we say are small things, are actually pretty big things in life. So now I'm able to appreciate all those things. So which for which I think I'm privileged. Before, as a doctor, as you said, I mean, many doctors do become mechanical. I have seen so many deaths. I have been to the morgue to certify people, and it was just something you go and you fill up the form, you feel this body with cold hands and that sort of thing. The first time I realized how it must feel was when I kind of wet myself in the bed. It was in Wellington Hospital. That was the time when, if it was dark, I didn't know where my legs are. So I had to literally see my legs to talk to them. It sounds odd, I know, but this is exactly what I had. I had to literally focus my attention on my legs, on my toes to make them move. I had to turn the lights on. So that was one night when I kind of wet myself, and it felt pretty bad. No, I don't have any other words for it. And normally a patient would like a beautiful nurse to come in. So, but that time I was really hoping it would be a male nurse who comes in to clean me up. But there comes this lovely girl that was probably just joined nursing a couple of years ago, and she tried her best to make me comfortable. She stripped me, she changed the bed sheet and all that. But it just felt so humiliating in a way. Uh, and that's when I realized how many times I have done that to patient without me realizing how they had felt. So those were the times which had connected me to how a patient had felt at that particular time, how a person who was on the way out dying and they wanted to see me at that time, what kind of difference did I make to them? So being on the other side of the fence helped me with that.
That's interesting. And you also mentioned about the dynamics of the relationships in your life, how they change. But first and foremost, the relationship you had with yourself changed,
It has, yeah,
isn't it? And your family, as much as this has been your journey, this has been theirs as well.
absolutely.
What I know you said that the first fear that you had in your mind was about your family, but what were your expectations from them? What were you thinking? Did you have any expectations?
That's a difficult one because, to be honest, I just wanted them to go. Uh, sorry. I didn't want them to see me in the way I was. Even now, Millie, my wife who's here, I keep telling her that you deserve better and you should you should find a better life.
Let's
But
have Millie here, please. I think he needs you here today.
now Millie has been great. I must say that yeah, please come. So without Millie and my two daughters and a bit more importantly my dogs,
I love dogs, so I
my,
love
my,
it when he
my
says
two
that.
dogs, they've been my greatest healers. So this is Millie, my wife, so who has been on this journey with me, and probably it has been more difficult for her because I could feel the physical pain that has happened to me, but she had to feel it on my behalf, which is probably even worse. So I did. On one hand, I wanted them to find a better life and maybe just go away because I couldn't be the normal father anymore. But on the other hand, I I didn't need them. I needed them with me.
They needed you, I think. They needed you more than you did. So, Millie,
So,
I'll give this to you because I think he's a little overwhelmed. Millie, you know, that when we were hearing his story, there was almost in my mind, I was thinking there is a book that I think Millie should write as well about the life and, you know, she has seen. Uh, what do you have to say about to families who are going through similar challenges because you have dealt with it with such grace and such beauty and such strength. So, and it's because of you, kudos to you, that Dr. Bhaskar is here today launching his book. What is it that, what's the message for the families from your side?
Well, I would like to start this way. Uh, our four-member family, our four-member family we are a very fast family, like fast in the sense we had lots to do, long working hours, schools, activities, and I never saw this coming. He might have invited bad luck to him by always thinking, I don't want to be like my dad. But for me, life was rosy, really rosy. I was really happy. Never, no, nowhere in the horizon I saw this was coming. So when it did hit my family, I couldn't comprehend it for a long time. The day, months after the accident, month after the operation, we went out for a stroll just in front of our house. And then when he couldn't keep up, then I realized life has changed now. So this is just one bit. There are lots to come. And as you're saying that I have gone through this entire period with grace. I don't think so. I'm still learning. There's a lot to learn, a lot to cope with. So to all other families, I would say there's no surety of life, of what's there, what's going to come to you. So you have to be prepared. Financial security is very, very important. Emotional strength and the belief in the Almighty. That is what I would advise other families to keep in mind. But I would again say it's a long, long journey. This is, I think, a little fraction of what we are going to face as a family that has gone by now. It's past now, but we have a lot to take in.
How is this? Have you read the book?
parts of it.
Families. My family's the same. But this whole time when he was writing this book, obviously we could see there's so much enthusiasm in Dr. Bhaskar. Did you see some hope? Did you see the light of hope, at least in his spirits? And did that give you hope?
I would say yes, lots of hope. Without his enthusiasm and hope, I think would have turned desperate. It's because I see him trying so much, working so hard to to make him feel more secure, happy. That is also helping us, me and my girls, to keep going. If he would have been depressed and would have done nothing to help himself, I don't know where we would have been.
I think that calls for applause for Dr. Bhaskar. That really does. What's that one thing that you absolutely love about this man? I'm just trying to lighten up the mood here.
Okay. That is a bit difficult.
Isn't it for all wives after 20 years?
His, what should I say, his trying, he tries to make his family happy, which always might not be. He chooses the way he chooses to make his family happy. It might not make us happy, but he tries his best because he thinks he is doing something. So he tries a lot.
I get you. Okay, we'll pass the mic back to Dr. Bhaskar. Thank you, Millie.
Thank you.
We'll love you to stay here, please. So that was, I hope that made you smile. So going back, how has relationships, how do you see them now? In, not just with Millie, with your family, with friends, in general, how has your perspective about relationships changed?
One good thing about going through a difficult time is that's when you realize who your real friends are. That's a plus point. You know, when I used to be rich, I had enough money to throw parties or pay the restaurant bills. And this I want to say particularly for one of my friend who is here, Justin, who has been through this journey. He's one of our regular clients and a very good friend at Samsara restaurant. We have discussed this as well. You know, when you have money to throw and pay the bills for your friends, there will be lots to surround you. It's only when you go through the difficult times that's when you realize who your real friends are. Because I've now seen so many people who have turned away. They don't even pick up my phone just in case I ask them for money or something. Even my family. I'm sad to say today my brother is not here. He's decided not to come because he thinks that I have given more importance to my friends than to my family or even to him. In the book, although he hasn't read the whole thing, but he just looked at the dedication page and saw that I have dedicated my book to all my friends.
I can assure you there is everything about family in the book.
So, anyway, coming to your question about relationship, you know, what I've realized is that relationships are very important. There was a point in time when I became such a workaholic that I didn't socialize at all. I didn't go to parties. I didn't go to any ceremonies or anything like that because all I thought was, why don't I spend my 2 minutes in earning something more? But now I have realized, you know, friends and family are probably the things closest to God in flesh and blood. And there have been so many people who have come out from nowhere, like miracles in everyday life. And that's something I've stressed quite a lot in the book. You know, miracles happen on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be a short of lightning or a magic hat or anything. Just meeting people who have come out to say, yes, I'm going to help you. Let me do this for you, sort of thing. Even now with the book promotion, I don't have any money to spend on promoting the book, but there have been so many people who have come out to say, yeah, let's get an interview for you. Let's put this on this Facebook page, that sort of thing. So many people have helped in so many ways. And not just about the book, in general, about life, about my neighbors. They looked after our girls when Millie had to be with me in the hospital. That sort of things, So I have definitely learned to appreciate it a lot more.
There's one more thing also, again, when we were discussing, it kept coming to me, was your knack of intuition.
Yeah.
I thought he's very intuitive. Either it's intuition or very good planning. I mean, who would think that a doctor would go and open a restaurant? And here you opened Samsara, which has become a blessing in disguise for you now.
It has, yeah. It
What
has, yeah.
what was going in your mind? Are you led by intuitions?
I believe that as human beings, we have been given this gift of intuition, of gut instinct, of premonition, whatever you say. That's what kind of differs us from other beings. What I love to call as encrypted clues. It is for us to be receptive enough to listen to those clues and to be able to decipher them and to be able to make sense out of it. 9 times out of 10, if we listen to our gut instinct, we are right. But the modern education, modern technology has actually taking us away from that intuition. It was probably the intuition or gut instinct because of which it was back in 2006 when I started investing in insurance, on critical illness, on income protection, on all sorts of things. I've got another very good friend of mine, gentleman, Mr. Puri, who is a financial advisor, and he now tells me that he gives my examples to his other clients because I had invested so much money. At one point it was £700 a month for insurance because I had this intuition that something might go wrong at some point in life and I need to make sure that my family is not on the road. And that is what has helped me. Also, I believe that you should not be putting all your eggs in one basket. You need to diversify, and that's a general entrepreneurship rule. I think it reduces your risk, and that's how I got into real estate, into the restaurant, and many other businesses, some of which have flourished, some which haven't done so. But yeah, it is because of that intuition which has made me do several things, and I'm thankful that I've listened to my intuition.
Fabulous. Coming back to the book, so looking at this book, holding it in your hand, what are you feeling today?
Feels like a baby. It feels great, actually. It feels like your own creation. I especially have to thank Sandra for this, who's helped me a lot with the editing and in general about the book. Without you, it wouldn't have been possible.
I agree.
So the book, it has helped me in structuring my reflections. It has helped me put my thoughts in there, and with the hope that this book will help lots of people. Also, I hope it will open some new doors for me. In a way, so just thinking, as I said, I mean, I'm not sure what the future holds for me, but hopefully by this book I will be able to touch a lot of hearts and reach lots of people who, in the sense, might create some miracles in my life.
I remember when we were, doing this book, there came a point when we thought that a letter to life would be a good one. So, the letter to life, if I was to ask you, what are the lessons, if for 3 or 5 broad lessons that you have learned throughout this journey of, um, coming out of such a challenge in such a positive manner and using it as a tool to now inspire others? What are the lessons you have learned?
Quite a few. First of all, appreciate the present. Because yesterday was a memory, tomorrow is an imagination, which may or may not happen. It's only this moment in time that I'm sitting and talking with you that's the reality. So we have to live and enjoy every moment of the present. that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't think anything about the future. So you still have to prepare for the rainy days when the sun is shining. That's the best time to do it. We have to appreciate what we have got, because although we may think our grief is the worst, there's always someone worse off than me. I'm today at least able to walk a few steps with the crutches. There are people who I had treated who are confined to the bed. So always appreciate the glass as half full rather than half empty. Keep dreaming. That's very important, because without a dream, you cannot progress. But at the same time, in order to realize your dream, the first thing you need to do is to stop dreaming and working towards it. So desire, belief, and perseverance, these are three very important words in my life, and I suppose that should be the same for lots of people. Because without any of those three, you cannot succeed. It is important to appreciate success when you got it. That's something I didn't do.
Celebrate it, I suppose.
Yes,
As
I
we get
didn't
it.
do that, and Millie would say that to you, because even when I was a successful person, I always kind of moaned about what I could have done better, because I fell short by my own standards. As I mentioned before, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Always try and diversify as much as you can. And it's basically up to us, because pain is something which is objective. It can be physical, it can be emotional, but how much we suffer depends on our own reaction. So pain is not necessarily always equal to suffering. What life throws at us, we can't control, but how we react to these curveballs defines who we are.
Rightly said, that pain is just a word, and in my opinion too, suffering is and pain is just word. I mean, what emotion we put on it is what it become out of it. So I know we are coming to the end of the whole process, but I want to ask you, how has this changed your equation to the fear you had previously held in your heart? Do you still have that fear?
I've been told by my doctors that it's going to get worse. So I've been told that I have got a few years before I have to have a wheelchair permanently and a catheter, most likely, a long-term catheter. But I'm more prepared for it in a way that has given me the exact span of time. I know where I need to do my work, do my best. So I don't fear it anymore. I think I've taken quite a lot in stride. And as long as I've got my family with me and all the friends, all that, I'll try to do my best and enjoy. And I'm trying to do that by ticking boxes off my bucket list.
And lastly, I want to ask you about the title of the book, The Second Chance in Life. What does it mean to you? What are you looking ahead in your life with? The second chance that you have got, how is it going to be different than your life before?
Well, first of all, I have to thank you, because you suggested the second chance. And that was so appropriate, because it is literally my second chance. I want to make the most of it. I see myself as writing a few more books. I'm working on a couple of projects
Millie
now.
is laughing.
She always thinks that I'm a bit obsessive. You talked about enthusiasm. I must have driven you crazy with my enthusiasm, because sometimes that can be overpowering. But I see myself as a motivational speaker, because I think there are people that I can help, especially with the younger generation, with in the corporate sector and all that. So hopefully I can fulfill that. I hope to be able to do many more paintings. At some point, I do hope to be able to return to medical practice, but that probably won't be more than part-time, where hopefully I can do it in a more philanthropic way. That's what I hoped.
I was about to ask that question. Do you miss being a doctor? But you already answered that.
I do.
So I think that should be. Okay, yes. Is there any question from anyone here? And Raga has one question.
Thank you. That was lovely listening to you in person other than just reading it. And I enjoyed your book. I should not be saying enjoyed, but I really did
Thank you.
because it gave a glimpse into somebody's vulnerabilities, which is something that I think all of us shy away from. I'm going to ask you something that you shared towards the end about what the doctor said your future would be. And I kind of question that because I trust the medical profession, and I know there are doctors in the room, and you're a medical person yourself. I've seen that in my own life, my own experiences, my own partner, who couldn't take 2 steps after the hospitalization and now runs 10 kilometers most days. So, do you believe that medical science cannot really tell you how you're going to be in the future, or is it the power of the brain, of the mind, like in your case? It's total, I think, personal effort that has made you, even be this person you are now. So, what do you think is the balance there?
I think every single day the medical science is progressing. So I do have one hope, which is stem cell therapy, but it's in a very infantile stage at this moment. So people talk about stem cell therapy for everything, but it hasn't reached to the point where they can make a person normal after having a severe spinal cord injury. In terms of what the doctors have said, so that's a natural progression because as I get older, so things will become more fragile. So I will probably have more problems. But you're absolutely right. It's about my strength of mind as to what I make out of it, and how I suffer basically. So or I thrive.
Hi, Bhaskar. Hi, Millie.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you. I obviously I read the book and I also have spoken to you. But today I'm listening to you and your positivity about. I think Kishore always talks about it, and it so resembles today. And appreciating what you have and enjoy. I mean, half full glass and full empty glass is how it is different. Um, it's good to hear that you're going to write another books. I just want to know because I know that this is Second Sons of Life. It will be your next name of the book?
So the next book, which I hope will come out in the next couple of months, is a collection of poems. Doing a collection of 100 poems. So I'm co-authoring it with a friend of mine, uh, who is a professor in English back in India, and it's going to be called Straight from the Heart. It's a collection of 100 poems.
Sounds good.
Other than that, I'm writing 2 stories, but it's very early on now to say anything about that.
Thank you. You definitely inspire a lot of people. Definitely
Thank you.
do, and continue to do it.
I still don't know how many people will read poetry, but I'm hoping some people will.
Definitely.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Bhaskar, we've been talking a lot this recently, but I
Hello,
have a
Raksha.
question for Millie. Please, if you don't mind, see, the title Dr. Bhaskar is there, no doubt. It's not going to be taken away. Who is he for you? You. And how this journey has helped your family to be reborn the way you guys have bonded.
Hi, Raksha. It's a difficult question. As I told you, the incident that happened to my family was nowhere in my horizon. I was totally overwhelmed by it. For the first couple of months, I was numb. I just couldn't feel anything. As I told you before, on a stroll, just in front of our house, when he couldn't cope with us, I realized this is it. So this is the starting point. My life is going to, or our life is going to completely change. And it had changed in many ways because there are lots of things he can't do and lots of things he can do. So running a household, 2 daughters, doing a full-time job with 2 dogs, it's difficult. So as I told Ekta, for all the other families, what I would like to pass on these messages is that life is too unpredictable, and to survive such kind of calamity, the most important thing is the bond between the family members, the love that you share. It is in these difficult times that you need each other. The emotions that you hold between uh, each of us needs to be stronger. And it's not only family, you need lots of friends. And when I say lots, lots not in number, but in the amount of love you share with them. Close friends are very, very important. Um, they help you wade through these difficult times. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, I would like to reiterate here is that the calamity in life at which Bhaskar had faced is, and I have never spoken to him or told him this, but any other person in his state would have got depressed. I don't know, there are other ways of facing depression, but he took it in a very bold way. Uh, he is relentlessly trying to get himself out of this situation of the mental state. In that way, he's helping not only himself, but he's also helping us, me and my daughters. Because if he had been drowned in depression, I wouldn't know what to do. Maybe I would have been taking the entire responsibility of the family, which thankfully, thank God, it's not the case. He still is the leader of the pack. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, BB, if I could, first of all, thank Shah for serving me again. This time with a microphone. It's not normally a microphone. If I could take you to Samsara, and I have two questions for you about Samsara. The first is any highlights of running the restaurant. So we met a couple of years ago. And the second is what is the best dish at Samsara?
Thank you very much, Justin. Because Samsara is one of my few successes in the last couple of years. It had been hard going because of the pandemic and everything, and we had two other partners, and they left, and then I had been running it. So, and I'm glad to say, it's actually Millie is the owner. I just work there, so but it has